If you looked at our agenda, our next agenda item is the updates, and there's 4 that we wish to have. And I believe, Karen McDonald, you were going to help us understand, just have an update on the provincial initiative.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's nice to see you all. Well, you saved me having to put my name in the chat box. So it's Karen McDonald with the Stage Seniors Association, but I'm bringing you a bit of an update. Sheila and I and Jody Wood on the call and others are involved with the Interim Community Leadership Council for the development of the community-based senior services sector here in Alberta. So I'll bring you a bit of an update on that. So some of the things that have been happening in the last few months. Back in June, many of you would have participated in the community activation session. So that was really about a check-in around where things are at relative to the development of the roadmap and the work that's underway. Of course, this is meant to be community-led work. So we always want to be checking in on how we're doing relative to the work that's underway, making sure that we're on track with our colleagues. And so there was over 350 sector members that participated in this session. So I just wanted to bring that stat back to the group. I thought that was a really exciting statistics to share. We're just in the process of summarizing and collating the notes from that. So there will be some information back regarding those sessions, but lots of really, really helpful feedback from those activation sessions. So thank you to those of you who did participate. Very exciting news. If you did participate in those sessions, you will recall that we did a bit of a check-in regarding some brand work that was underway. Community-based seniors serving sector. It's a bit of a mouthful. So we were working on some potential new names. We did some surveying in those sessions. And the name that came out on top is Healthy Aging Alberta. So there was some really good polling that happened from 2 names that kind of emerged as the favorites from bunch of names that came out of some branding work that we did with a company. So the actual brand identity, the visual stuff, it's quite lovely. We're looking forward to sharing that out. You should probably see information on CORE as well as the newsletter. Hopefully you're all signed up for that. So watch for that. So Healthy Aging Alberta. Hopefully we'll stop. It'll take me a while to make this shift, but we'll stop using the word CBSS and start using the term Healthy Aging Alberta. Some of the things that we've been doing to speak up on behalf of community-based senior services was things like, I don't know if you had heard, but there was some real concern recently regarding issues for seniors who are on GIS, federal financial benefits, who had accessed the CERB benefits early on in the pandemic, who had been cut off from GIS. So we were able to send a letter to our federal Minister of Seniors, as well as to work with our provincial counterparts, Jody and the team here with Seniors and Housing, to try and put out a bit of a tip sheet for seniors serving professionals here in Alberta so that they had access to timely information. It's very complicated in terms of how that impacts people's benefits, what workarounds might be available. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of solutions at this point in time. But there was a bit helpful in terms of some of the things that people might be able to continue to access. So that's an example of why it's important that we have a provincial sector that can respond to those types of situations collectively rather than as individual organizations. So it wasn't just SAGE, for example, writing a letter. We were able to do that collectively on behalf of the sector. Year 1 reporting for the provincial grant that we had to develop CORE and to advance some of the sector development work is almost complete. So that will be completed shortly and will be shared out to the sector. So watch for that on CORE and in the newsletter. Implementation of the Constellation of Networks model that comes out of the civil society funding. That work is underway. A project manager has been hired, a project coordinator has been hired, and we're looking at hopefully advancing that work in this fall and getting it rolling. So that's really about a network of networks approach, recognizing assets at the regional and local level. So that's leveraging this type of work locally and not trying to duplicate work that's already underway. It's really trying to activate work that's happening at the regional level and trying to leverage that up into provincial coordination. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to activate that civil society funding. So more information to come about that soon. You might recall the work that was done for the Alberta Association of Senior Centres a few years ago on the Healthy Aging Framework. Anne Smith was really involved in that work. We've been working with Anne and others to adapt that Healthy Aging Framework for use by senior serving organizations more broadly, not just senior centres. So that work is also underway. We're excited to share more this fall. You may have seen information on CORE and in the newsletter around sector mapping. That work is just wrapped up recently, and we should be able to share some information out in the coming month or so. And then we're in the process of beginning to do the evaluation framework for this work in more detail. So in the early days, when it was really about the development of CORE and getting the sector development work underway and developing the roadmap, we really didn't have a lot of evaluation resources in that initial grant. But with the civil society funding and the year 2 grant support from Seniors and Housing, we will have more support around evaluation. So we're working on that. We want to be able to be confident that we can speak to the impact of those investments and be confident that we're on the right track. So we're going to work with policy-wise on that. And then finally, there's been a lot of work happening over the summer around identifying potential longer-term governance structures for this work and leadership structures. So right now we have an interim community leadership structure that Sheila and I and others are involved in, looking towards more permanent structures, probably winter of next year, where that would be in place. So we've been doing work with a consultant around that, and this fall we hope to make a final decision around that and get those structures in place for next year. So everything's sort of coming together all at the right time. So that's my update. Does anybody have any questions, or Sheila or anybody else on the call have anything they might want to add?
Can I just say, phew, that's amazing,
lots of work underway.
Karen.
Yeah, it was a very quiet summer. Nothing happened at all. Yeah, in the pandemic, nobody was busy. Yeah. No, it's been exciting. It's really, really gratifying to see all this come together, right? We've been talking about it for so long. I have to say it's pretty exciting to see it coalescing. Sheila or anybody else, did you want to add anything?
No, I think you did an amazing job of kind of giving the broad overview. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, no problem. We do a lot of presentations. I had some notes I could pull from.
I would just add a plug of encouragement to anybody that's on the call. I know that there's so many surveys right now that you're probably like, oh my God, don't give me another one. But for those that were able to respond to the survey about how CORE is working, and there was some individual interviews as well as part of the evaluation process. That's so helpful to have within the reporting for the project to kind of keep the funding going and whatnot. So the other thing that is happening is the year 1 report. We're just working on that. So the results from those surveys were very, very helpful for that. So thank you to everybody that did it. And if you get another one, please do it, because it's extremely valuable for the reporting process. So thanks.
Is there a link to CORE we could put in the chat just in case someone on the call is not yet connected to CORE?
Yeah, sure. I'll pop that in. Just give me a couple of seconds.
Yeah. No, that would be great, because it's a great tool if people haven't yet made their way towards it. So if there's no questions for Karen, we'll move to Carolyn and Age Friendly for an update.
Great, thanks, Anne. Good morning, everybody. I just have a few updates for Age Friendly Edmonton. So just as a reminder that AFE's intergenerational and diversity hubs have created 16 podcasts that can be accessed on blueberry.com or other platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So as a result of these amazing podcasts, the team has created a podcast facilitators presentation guide, and 5 AFE volunteers have been trained to facilitate these sessions to teach older adults how to access podcasts. So the first of these podcast sessions will be held at the Health and Wellness Forum, which is going on right now. And it's going to be on Friday at 11 a.m., facilitated by our own Eric Story and Joan Welch. Both are volunteers within the AFE hubs. And we'll also be collaborating with SAGE and Northwest Edmonton Senior Society in October and November to bring these sessions to seniors. So we're hoping to expand it over the next little while, but we need more volunteer facilitators to support this. AFE is also supporting the University of Alberta in becoming an age-friendly university. Doctors Cherie Quancy and Kyle Whitfield they're both heading up a working group who are working on crafting a proposal to be submitted to the University of Alberta's provost by the end of October. AFE provided over the summer a letter of support as part of that proposal. And if anybody is interested in reading more about Age-Friendly University and the 10 principles that go along with it, I can put a link in the chat box. And last but not least, some of you may recall we had 3 very successful lunch and learns during Seniors Week, so we decided to continue to offer them in October. We have 2 upcoming in the month of October. On Thursday, October 7th, that's next week, our ageism panel will feature former Mayor Stephen Mandel, Dr. Adrian Wag, who's a gerontologist at the U of A, and Karen Van de Veer, a local artist, and they will all share their perspectives on aging and ageism. The panel discussion will be moderated by by Dr. Cherie Quancy. She's a professor at the U of A and is also on our AFE Ageism Hub as a change maker. And then the other one that we're going to be hosting is going to be on Wednesday, October the 20th. This lunch and learn will be focused on aging in place. Jolynn Hall, our change maker with AFE, will explore what housing transitions were like for a number of Edmonton seniors. Each senior chooses a path for different housing options that best suits them at that time. So these seniors will give you, the seniors that we've invited to come will give a glimpse into the planning that they did, the challenges that they encountered, and the resources that they accessed in the community to help guide their decisions. So I can put the registration links in the chat box if you're interested in attending or you just want more information. Would really appreciate if you could fan it out to your network and let them know that these lunch and learns are happening. Both sessions will also be broadcast on Facebook Live. Yay, we got that figured out last time. So that's just another way of getting the information out to the people that are interested in this type of information. And yeah, so that's my update. So I guess my other little pitch for the day before I leave is that if you're interested in getting involved in any of the hubs, you know what, please reach out to me and we can have a chat. So that's everything for AFE. If you want to have any questions.
Any questions related to Age Friendly? Just looking on both my screens here to make sure I have not missed anyone. So Mary, I think you are going to give us an update on, there's so many Marys. Our Alberta Health Services Mary is going to give us an update on social prescription.
Sure. So we have a class from the University of Alberta, a group of 5 students completing their Master's of Public Health. They're in their 2nd year of their master's degree and very keen. So these 5 individuals have joined us and they are going to be supporting some of the deliverables that we have, I think, co-developed over a meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. So one of the first things that they did is they started to develop a project charter in terms of what they are planning on working on, what's in scope for their activities and what's out of scope for their activities. So the main approach is community assessment and research, and their focus will be on assessing how a social prescribing program will positively impact the lives of seniors in Edmonton. And we're focusing our work with primary care networks at this time because we have not yet had the opportunity to work with our home care partners. So we're focusing on primary care networks and community organizations to determine a pathway for social prescribing and to outline the roles for every group. So the first phase, which is what they'll be involved with in the next 3 months, will involve some asset mapping, journey mapping, assessment screening, tool gathering. So just looking around to see what other jurisdictions are using, what might be helpful for a senior population accessing primary care networks here, and then developing a framework for the PCN model of social prescribing. So a few of those objectives are really to understand what assets are available to and by accessed by seniors and existing community services, to pinpoint a target demographic of seniors needing services and assess their needs, to establish a framework for how PCNs can navigate or connect older adults to those services, and to provide a foundational evidence to move this program forward. We're just starting to gather this information, and we have a Google Drive. And if anyone would like any more information or join any of our meetings to brainstorm or to develop anything with us, just let us know. Just reach out to me, to Sheila, to Beth, anyone really in the social prescribing working group, and we'll connect you.
Does anyone have any questions? Social prescription is a focal point that the SRT identified, I believe, in the winter of 2020, and work continues despite the challenges to develop that model and to have a plan for implementation. Any questions of Mary? So thanks, Mary, because I think you're key in having access that powerful resource for us to keep things moving forward.
Just a comment, it's really exciting to see it moving forward and the progress. So thanks for sharing, Mary.
So if I don't see any questions, we'll move to Sheila, who's going to give us an update on the Seniors Home Supports Program.
Thanks, Anne. For those of you who are not familiar with the program, it gives Edmonton seniors referrals to vetted service providers who offer snow removal or yard help, housekeeping or minor home repair and maintenance, personal services, and moving help. And I just put a link to it in the chat box. We have 6 senior organizations that employ home support coordinators, and we've split the city up into 6 areas and using postal codes. This program has been running now for over 5 years, and we have a big database that all the home support coordinators use for both screening the service providers and for intake of seniors to use the program. So in the 5 years from January 2017 to May of this year, there's been 5,000 intakes into the program and about 8,200 referral interactions for services within the program, and another 1,300 referrals for services outside of the program. It's pretty well split up over the city when it comes to where the clients are coming from to get the referrals. And I thought it was useful to report on this today. We haven't normally reported on it in the Stewardship Round Table because as we look at the data from the 5 years, we're realizing there's lots of vulnerability factors with the clients that are using the program. So 43% of the clients that use the home supports program are over 80 years of age. 3/4 of them are female. 59% of those females are living alone, and 43% of the females who live alone are low income. And so over the years in offering this program, every year we look at the data and try and understand what is it telling us, how do we need to adapt this program accordingly. We've added services to the program, including the personal care and the moving help, because people were asking for that. Another adaptation that we did because we felt there was a need was to create a subsidy for snow removal to be able to help seniors who are low on income be able to hire a snow removal provider. So that program gives up to $600 for a snow season for a senior to be able to deal with their snow removal. And in trying to understand, is this program meeting the need, we are recognizing in the follow-ups with the clients that sometimes they don't follow up with the referral, and for a few reasons, like sometimes it's that they have realized that they don't need the service at this time, or that it's not a priority, or they found an alternative solution. But when they don't use the service, about 22% of the time they say it's because of financial reasons. And so this summer, we decided to dig into that a little bit more and to do interviews with a lot of the clients of the program and some seniors who've never accessed the program. And so these in-depth interviews will help us kind of delve deeper into why this is happening, and maybe give us some insights into what we might be able to do for the program. And we hope to be able to use the data, and we're working with mapping and planning support in the Alberta Capital Region to look at that data plus another whole number of samples of data to really understand more about low resource seniors. And so we hope to be able to share some of this data by the end of October. We'll schedule a meeting and we'll let people know where and when that's going to be. It'll be online, obviously, but a date has not been chosen yet. So any questions about that? If not, I'll hand it back over to Anne, and just let me know when you want me to put the slides.
Yes, I think we're probably ready for those slides. I just say that the home supports program, I think Haidong for sure was there, but it's been an evolution. I think, 7 or 8 years ago, snow removal was identified as a priority, and then the collaborative work of the sector identified that that was too narrow a focus, and then a method and methodology around home supports developed. So it's an example of the collaborative efforts of this sector. So if there's no questions about any of those updates, we will move to agenda item number 3, which really is to look at the SRT evolution to network gathering. And I would just echo maybe some, in Karen McDonald's presentation, talking a lot about CBSS and then being able to rename and reconfigure it as we move forward. And I think that this agenda item is just to speak very briefly to the connection between the work of the SRT and the evolving development of a network, and that we actually see them as one, not distinct activities. So this collaborative journey map is just put here as really a reminder to say we have a very strong history of collaboration. This journey map does not cover it all, but we do know that we have a strong sector that really has worked together effectively to benefit seniors, and that this is an evolution, and we keep developing and building on the work that we've done together. And we do have, in essence, a network of networks. So I think this is just to say we do have a strong history and we're building on it. But where did SRT come from? From those of us who may have joined at SRT and not in the first step. And again, the spiral image here on this slide, very, very intentional, that really we are involved in an organic and developmental process, and that network that we're building is within a context of much activity, and we're really trying to ensure connection, relationship, and collective action. So Pegasus, many of you, I think someone mentioned in my small group this morning that this is where they first began to work with others, was the Pegasus project. If my memory is correct, about 5 years ago, a focus on isolated and vulnerable seniors. And when that work came to an end, the power of working together, the relationships developed, there was a desire not to lose all of that. And so the Stewardship Round Table then was formed. And in March of 2020, just before the pandemic, that our Stewardship Roundtable was really evolving into, well, how do we move beyond, because there was some federal funding to support the SRT, how do we move beyond the SRT to a sustainable network of those who want to take collective action to benefit seniors? I remember we were beginning to talk, we were using the term network guardians, but we were beginning to think about how would we create a governance structure. There was significant work done on looking at domains of change, and that's where social prescription came from. So there was real energy building around evolving SRT to a broad-based inclusive network supporting older adults. Of course, then our pandemic impacted us, and the collective efforts of the sector really did move to pandemic response. But quietly and slowly, while the main focus was on services to seniors during the pandemic, work continued to say, how do we keep building out SRT? How do we evolve to this broader network? So I think we're seeing, just as Karen was saying, CBSS is now the Healthy Aging Network. I think we're seeing SRT as evolving into a broader network, just continuing to work through the evolution of how do we keep building relationships and contact to develop older adults. So we're seeing that work now. I know last in July, we announced there was the members of what's called the Interim Collective Leadership Group. And the plan that we had moving forward was that we needed leaders to support us, community-based leaders to support us to understand what the evolution and next step in this network might look like. So that group was formed in July. We announced the membership at our SRT, and it's had some opportunity to work together, and we'll speak to that briefly. But I just wanted just to confirm with individuals that we're sort of understanding our history, so that although it didn't quite, the path we might have seen for ourselves in March before the pandemic, we haven't quite followed that path. I think we are now at the same place in terms of saying, we know we need some network guardians or some network leaders to help us think through the potential of this network, its focus, and a more permanent leadership structure. So I just wanted to confirm that we are people have we have a common understanding of sort of who we are and where we might be headed. So that what we're calling the SRT or the network gathering will become a critical component in terms of supporting the evolution of the network. So any questions? We just wanted, always trying to build common ground, because SRT, we come and go, we participate as we're able. So we're just trying to keep building that common base of understanding. So briefly, before we move to item 4, we're sort of 3 and 4 merge into each other. Here you see your members of the Interim Collective Leadership Group. Their biographies are on the website if you want to get to know those individuals better. But I just want to remind people of how this group was formed. So we've talked about the idea of passing a baton. So in terms of, although we know there's some changes needed, we do have a roadmap for this network, and there has been feedback, and we know it will evolve. But I do think there was much common ground around the need to develop the network more fully, and that we did want community-based network leadership. So as a result of that, Sheila formed a catalyst group of community members, and she in essence handed the baton to them, so that the recruitment and selection of the group you see before you would be driven from the community as opposed to from the council staff. So that was done. We went through that process in detail in July, and certainly if anyone wanted more information about that, that can be provided to them. And then in June, this group was selected. Their mandate is 18 months, and their intention is to take that next turn in our spiral on the development of the network. There's a terms of reference, which Mary Whale is going to share the primary purpose of the network with you in a moment. So here we are, I think, in our evolution, acknowledging the context in which we work and all that good collaborative work that's occurring, and seeing the seeds for perhaps where we are, really starting with Pegasus, moving into our SRT, then knowing that we've done amazing work and continue to do over the pandemic period, and now beginning to envision and imagine the future, where we might focus our energy collectively, and how we might create a more permanent leadership structure to ensure that this work of the SRT and the sector continues over time. So I'm the history lesson, and Mary Whale and Jan Beeston are going to share, both are members of the Interim Collective Leadership Group, and they're going to share some first steps with you. So if we're on a strong foundation, I'll turn the conversation to Mary, and she'll speak to the purpose and roles of the Collective Leadership Group.
Sorry, thanks, Anne. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. That was a great preamble. You know, Sheila had asked me to cover a few slides on this for today's meeting, and I was a bit anxious working in isolation, but as I listened to everybody preceding me, it is evident that it's a journey, and our energies are evolving into something greater than one, for sure. I was a healthy aging nurse for a long time, but I'm a visual artist and a visual thinker. And I just wanted to start with a little metaphor, if you indulge me. I work with tracing paper. You might not see it, but you can hear it. And tracing paper for the design phase. It's translucent, it's durable, it allows for easy changes. I can overlap to compare to previous versions and envision a totally different design or composition. So I invite you, or not just me, but I think the ICLG invites you, the network of stakeholders, to work with us, the ICLG, to facilitate and support a durable service, to plan, erase, evaluate, and design a network that will reflect the vision that the roadmap has suggested to us. And that is to facilitate equity of access and opportunity to resources that address health and social determinants for older adults to age with dignity in community. So the roles and responsibilities are involved with the ultimate of developing this draft, and draft is capitalized, network declaration, with including the vision, intention, and strategic direction, and the governance structure, which is like, that's a lot of stuff. That's a big job, but as Anne has pointed out, It's an evolution of our journey. I feel like I've been a part of the journey, not since 2005 when ESCC was established, but certainly for the last many years with Age Friendly and being on the board of the ESCC and experiencing these incredible projects that did require a collective mindset, which is crucial to where we're going. Can we move the slide to the, yeah, so roles and responsibilities. We being, I was part of that catalyst group that worked over the winter to hammer out these roles and responsibilities for the ICLG. They're there for you, and I believe they were attached to the documents that were sent out today. So I won't read them, but this first one really reminded me of something that Peter DeVos, who helped us in our retreat, he shared a lot of really great ideas with us about network weaving. That happened on September 10th and 11th. And he presented us with something that really resonated with me, a kind of a different definition of power. That power is equivalent to the ability to act or to achieve a purpose. And that's what I think that's the perfect definition for us moving forward. We need to organize people and to organize resources to achieve our purpose with this network. And that is part of our responsibility. The second one speaks to, again, passing the baton from the interim leadership group to a permanent one. And Anne provided that wonderful kind of Cole's version of our journey to where we are today. And it's a work in progress. By the hopefully early 2023, the interim leadership group will be prepared to pass that baton to a permanent group that will continue on. The third one there, encouraging and supporting the development. Oh, the components. So I encourage you to refer you to the draft roadmap on page 7 and 8. It has, it suggests the kind of components that would be a part of this network. For instance, the network gathering of diverse stakeholders in the community. That's really important. It refers to a reference group, which could be comprised of academia, policymakers, like a think tank that could provide advice to the network and perhaps explore additional research based on identified needs. Of course, the permanent collective leadership group is part of that roadmap, and working groups. Anne gave a perfect example of social prescribing being kind of maybe our first major working group that came out of the SRT networking. A funders table, which is a collaborative approach, and of course the backbone ESCC is providing with coordination, facilitation, and administration for the network and also providing authentic information, which is really important. That hosting an inclusive stakeholder gathering to draft the network declaration, which would come out of our vision, right? So we need to continue to bring together our stakeholders to come up with that draft declaration. The roadmap speaks to transformational change, which is a different game. It's different rules, and we need visionary thinkers for that and collaborative action. So the ICLG, it's a big task, and along with the network, we hope to move us along. The network leadership is a different mindset, and I think Karen's reporting back with the provincial activities and things that are going on is an amazing example of that. It requires facilitation, support, reflection, and learning, innovation and experimentation, it's really a lot of energy, and that was such a great report, Karen, and I think it serves as a something to work towards for us. And that can't happen without communication, regular communication, reliable communication. It's crucial for our vision of shared understanding and goals. Openness and transparency are paramount, as we will be challenged by divergent dynamic tensions. So the only way to work with that is through regular communication. So it's a good thing tracing paper is durable, because we got a lot of work to do. And with that, I believe, unless anybody would like me to speak to any of those roles or responsibilities, I will pass it to Jan. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. So I guess I'm going to talk about a network mindset, and I'll start by saying that networks are embedded in complex systems, and getting networks started takes an ability to experiment and to cultivate a learning culture and to model and celebrate working together as a network. And if you look at the pathway that was shared, I think Mary shared the map, you can see that this is exactly what's happened to get us to where we are now. A network mindset's really different than a traditional mindset. It's loosely controlled and emergent. It's weaving connections and building networks, stimulating activity, open information and learning, decision-making shared. It requires collective intelligence, and its effectiveness is linked to intangibles. And those intangibles are like trusting relationships and information flows, as Mary said, heavily reliant on communication. And a network mobilizes action. And to mobilize action, you do need leadership. So in leadership, their role is to catalyze and animate and activate a network, not to dictate or control. Okay. So in mobilizing action, we'll actively weave social ties, access new and diverse perspectives, we'll build and share knowledge and create infrastructure for engagement, and then coordinate resources and action. That's the role of leadership, not to do the work, but to actually activate or animate a network. I think that's all. Sheila, is there more things that I needed to cover?
Jen, I wasn't keeping up, I don't think, with the slides, so I'll turn to the milestones up here on the screen, and maybe you just want to speak to sort of a little bit of some of the timelines.
Sure. Okay. So Sheila says timelines, and there's a flexibility inside of that inside a network, it is emergent. There is no hard planning that says this will happen by here and in this way. It's emergent, and it relies upon engagement of the network. And so we're developing right now processes for working together. And our priority is that engagement. In our orientation, we spent quite a lot of time on the imperative of engagement inside of building a network. And that inside engagement, we'd be hoping to achieve a clear understanding and direction for action and agenda and commitment, relationships of trust, and a win-win mindset. So willingness to work together and learn together. And so moving, our next step in moving forward is communication and then engagement. We do have a directive for a network declaration, and obviously we do have some hard timelines on that. So that's coming up somewhere between April and June of 2022, and then moving into the development of a permanent leadership group, and that the Interim Collective will have built a more solid foundation to launch that, that permanent leadership group. Okay, and anything else that I've missed in this?
No, I think that's great. And the slides that have been shared, if you think those look like works in progress, those are actually taken right from the retreat, results, that those yellow blocks were the thinking of the ICLG around their mindset, what's important to keep front and center as they do the work. And then, of course, given, as Mary said, a fairly significant leadership ambition, then the group began to map out how they might see this work flowing over their 18-month mandate. And I think, as Janice so eloquently said, that engagement piece is a critical piece, and it's where the group is going to focus its energy as it begins to do its work. But I think the intention was to hope that we are all moving together in our understanding of the network, the role of the interim leadership group. And now we're beginning to identify the leadership philosophy in terms of mindset and the big pieces of work the group sees for itself, and the time frame that we have asked that group to undertake that work in. So we wanted to ensure people can see the group has been formed. The group has beginning to coalesce and create some energy around intention and how it will do the work. So now, questions or anything people wish to say? Observations? Tatiana, I can see your hand. I can't hear you though.
Sorry, yeah, I thought I'm unmuted. Yeah, just an observation. I really like the fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I noticed that both you and Jen mentioned some sort of flexibility in terms of people's commitment and timeline. And I really appreciate, because you do take into consideration in this model of the leadership group and in other groups as well, people's abilities in terms of invest their time, because all of us are involved in so many other projects, and it's nice to see that this group does take into consideration your multiple responsibilities and commitments. And I can only imagine how much additional stress it puts on those who identify themselves as leaders for this project. So again, thanks that you do provide this kind of flexibility for the volunteers in this group and the other groups as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Tatiana. I know if you'll remember, there was a lot of feedback on the roadmap, and we did the deep dive, and that participation and flexibility and being able to participate in different ways and forms was really a key message that you have given to your network builders. And I think that's part of that network mindset is really, and even within the ICLG, I would say, really thinking through how do we maximize the commitment, skill, and contribution of you all in a way that is possible, given all that is happening. So I think the tracing paper is a good idea, is a very lovely image, and that we know potentially we are moving forward, but that eraser may have to come out every now and then. So I like that image quite a bit. Any other comments or reflections? Anwar, I can see your hand.
Thank you, Anne. I am really excited about Interim Leadership Group because the individuals who are on this group are amazing community leaders. So I have a great trust and hope on these amazing individuals. Just one question, anyone can respond. Relevance of what leadership group does and this particular group, because sometimes what happens, we create various groups and then there is an island, then there is another island. So I see that we have several of the members from this group part of this particular group as well. But how we want to make sure, or how we can formalize that, how information is going back and forth. Not just the update, but learning from each other and moving forward, because I really like the path as well, whatever path that we have created, although it is not the realized strategy, because when the permanent leadership group will be there, it may a little bit change the course, but still we know the destination. So anybody can comment on that.
I think you put your, and I'll let the interim leadership group members around the table answer also, but I think you put your finger on why that engagement strategy box is on the timeline and is coming first, because I think the group might not be able to answer your question right now, but they know that's just the critical piece to moving forward. I think that reflects, I was able to hear that retreat conversation, but there's several, I know we have several members of the interim leadership group with us. I don't know if anyone wanted to make a comment or observation related to Anwar's question and concern.
Maybe I'll just go back to the network mindset that it is emergent in that it's shared decision making and collective intelligence. And so you talk about a strategy, but the interim leadership's role isn't to be dictatorial, it's about engagement. And so whatever strategy evolves is through that engagement of the network. It's not the leadership group's network, it's your network. And this Stewardship Round Table is the foundation of that network. It's all of the people who have willingly chosen to step in and have their voice heard about what needs to happen for seniors. So the evolution is that this group is the foundation of the network leadership.
So Anwar, perhaps as we evolve, it's something that you can help us around accountability, keep asking that question around communication, engagement. Are we evolving to a collective? Because I think the image of island is probably as far away from our ambition as can be. So I think it's very important for this group to see itself as supporters of the leaders, that it's our work, and that these questions around, as you've asked, Anwar, are very important to keep us focused and to challenge us to realize that network mindset. Because we all know that we snap back every now and then when speed or passion or desire to reach a result kick in. So thank you for the question. Sheila, you wanted to say something. I can see a golden hand.
Yeah, I was just going to mention too that as part of our role to help with the background work, the backbone work, is to be able to help people understand where are we at. So today, for example, we're recording this meeting and we'll share this recording with people probably through our monthly electronic newsletter through the ESCC. It's called the Link Letter. So if people don't subscribe currently, we would encourage you to do that. And we will also, look for other ways that we can have communication vehicles that work for people to keep them updated and engaged.
Any other questions? Or comments or observations?
Just a comment that comes up at our board often, being comfortable with uncertainty. That was a good question, Anwar. I don't really know, but I think if we have that mindset and nurture that mindset of collaboration and collective action, I know we're going in the right direction. So I ask you to be comfortable with that uncertainty.
I think well said, Mary, and Jane concluded that as well. It's a moving target, and as long as we have this in our mind and we keep reinforcing that we have to work together, sharing information, sharing ideas, I think will be good. Thank you.
So those yellow blocks that were shown to you are the verbatim ideas of the Interim Collective Leadership Group, but perhaps as we see the network evolve, we may have a network mindset that we all are comfortable with and commit to in terms of how we are working together. So if there's not further questions, I'm going to move to the next and final agenda item, which is our village news. And I believe, Sheila, you were going to just lead us in that discussion. And if you'll remember, this is just our opportunity where we can say we have an upcoming event or there's an exciting initiative that we are, excuse me, undertaking. Or actually, we might like some help. we are making a call out. For example, Jody mentioned, there's a survey that maybe people want to connect to, or maybe there's some other work you're doing. So we'll just open the floor to see if there's any information people want to share related to the village news. So I don't see anything in the chat. Sheila, can you?
Yeah, sorry, I don't, but I hear hi, Dawn. So
okay, excellent.
Yeah, so the organization has been. Oh, I guess there's one thing that I think as network and also as nonprofit organizations, we need to probably figure out. For example, for tomorrow is September 30th. And that is the National Day for the Truth and Reconciliation. It is a national holiday. However, I believe our province hasn't endorsed that. So, so tomorrow will still open and will operate as usual. And there's a way as a way to recognize that and also give people the opportunity to reflect on that. The organization has been sharing resources with our members, raise the awareness. Of course, tomorrow is our center's board meeting, so the board members and staff will be wearing orange tomorrow. Yeah, so that's one thing I just want to say. Maybe we need to find out, probably it's not just for the nonprofit sector, but shall we take this day as a holiday? No, well, you know what I mean, like a holiday. And there is an impact on the organization, because that means all of a sudden it's going to be another pay holiday. And it's at the cost of the organization. And of course, it's going to interfere the daily operation. For example, all our classes and scheduling, that kind of stuff. So I guess if we have a chance to talk to the province and maybe find out as like together as a province, how are we gonna, I guess, deal with this kind of confusion?
So Haidong, if I've understood you correctly, perhaps two issues. One is that tomorrow is Truth and Reconciliation Day, and that West End Seniors has posted information that may be useful to others about that. And then perhaps a longer term question, which would have, again, two aspects. How do seniors serving organizations wish to acknowledge Truth and Reconciliation Day, and then the operational and organizational issues around do you work together as a collective to think about whether this is a day off, or that that is not that's not the decision. So maybe that shorter term identification that there are resources on your webpage, and the longer term question that perhaps by this time next year there'll be something coordinated across organizations.
Yeah, partially. Yeah. And the other thing I just want to mention, October 1st is the International Day of Older Persons. So since this is the part of the Village News, so the organization organizing an event. So on that day, we're gonna have the shredding event, bottle drive, volunteer appreciation, puzzle and book sale, outdoor. And indoor, we're gonna have the tryout for different kind of classes. Last year, we invited all the politicians to come and play pickleballs with our center's members, and they were beat them pretty bad. Like they were surprised how good our seniors are. And so this year we're inviting all the mayoral candidates and the what's the other, the city councilor candidates in our ward to come and play. And tomorrow night, no, not tomorrow night, Friday night, between 6 to 7:30, there will be a forum being held in the gym of the organization. So yeah, so that's what I like to share.
Thanks, Haidong. Would anyone else like to tell us about a project or initiative or news or an event? Ask a question with members.
It's Richard. First of all of the work, I was just amazed at all the work that was done. Also in our very opening session about what gives us motivation and helps us. One of the things I mentioned was that all of the work of all of the individuals and the whole volunteer sector and all of the organizations provides me with huge inspiration for all of the selfless work that you do with anything we ask within AHS. You step right up. So I'm very grateful for that. But even though we are hugely occupied with COVID, as you no doubt know, we did have a meeting last weekend, are moving forward with our old enhancing care in the community terminology activities. We've met with all of the provincial and community related portfolios, and we've written a white paper, which is actually more like a white chapter. It's 22 pages, but it really outlines why supporting care in the community is important, the role of the volunteer not-for-profit and charitable sector in that, along with all sorts of the other sectors. And so that's going forward to our executive, our board, and we're really sort of coming out of COVID trying to shift how we do things within AHS. So I just wanted to give you that heads up.
Thank you, Dr. Lewanchuk. I think I heard somebody else that wanted to say something as well. No? Okay, if there's no other village news, and should we just move on to the next meeting?
Our last agenda is the next meeting. It is the 24th of November. We've scheduled at 9. And we have one of the feedback from the roadmap review was people identified really the desire to begin to shape the agenda for these gatherings. So please, if there is something that you would like, an idea you'd like to discuss, or you have some suggestions for the agenda, there's openness to that. So I just encourage people to remember, I think it was when we did the deep dive, people said, well, we want to be more participatory in terms of how the agenda is set. So if there are ideas that you have for what would be something that would engage you and engage network members, please let Sheila know that. So unless there is not a final question or observation.
I have a question. Who's the new Tim? He was the person we could contact if we had information needed information, links, documents, or whatever. So,
well, you can contact me in the interim. You may have noticed that we're recruiting for a strategic specialist, and in fact, we interviewed 5 people last Friday, and have shortlisted down to 2 that we're doing a second interview this Friday. So soon we'll have another person, but in the interim, you can contact me and I'll try and answer your questions. Jen, thank you. Richard, your hand is up. Did you have something else you wanted to say, or?
Oh, sorry, no.
Okay, good. No worries. So we will, I apologize for the link issues this morning. We will send out a cancellation for that November date that might be in your calendars now, and create a new link and a new Zoom for that November 24th meeting. So that'll be coming out shortly. And we will, as I mentioned, share this recording of today's meeting in our October issue of Linkletter. And so hopefully if you know someone who wasn't able to be here this morning, then they can at least watch what took place. I'll turn it back over to you, Anne.
So I think unless someone has any concluding comment or observation, we'll adjourn. Thank you all for coming. And then again, just an encouragement that if there is some work you believe this network should be doing, that you identify that in terms of agenda item moving forward. And we know our Interim Collective Leadership Group is going to be thinking about engagement. And so I'm sure before November, you'll be hearing news on that front also. So I think we're adjourning, right? I would just note, you know, for those of us who facilitate things, we do watch the clock, and I always feel delight when it works. So thank you all for your participation, and we'll be connecting again soon.